Hey all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Haylou Solar Plus. This is a budget smartwatch from a company that's an ecosystem brand of Xiaomi, similar to Amazfit. However, Haylou's products tend to be even more budget conscious. Almost 2 years back, they came out with the original Solar that was a round smartwatch that became very popular as a wearable that looked a lot more expensive than the price implied, selling for only around $30 at the time. So now the Haylou Solar Plus builds on that foundation by offering upgrades in pretty much every department, but the most obvious one is the display, which is now a AMOLED or OLED screen measuring 1.43 inches diagonally. That is approx 0.1 inches larger than the previous model, and colors in general just pop and look a lot more vibrant compared to the IPS LCD panel on the original, not to mention that you do have an always-on display mode that you saw there earlier, which it will time out to after a few seconds of inactivity, and you don't have to necessarily wake up the watch to have a quick look at the time. Overall though, it's still a relatively entry-level smartwatch, and in fact, it's quite similar to the Haylou RS4 that we also checked out, similar to how Amazfit have their GTR and GTS representing square and round. We have the same experience here. With that being said, one feature that is new on the Solar Plus would be a rotatable crown. To interact with menu elements in terms of scrolling, as well as on the main watch dial, you can rotate it to switch the design, and that is nice to have in addition to pressing down to still acting as a control for getting into the main menu. Otherwise, we also have the addition of a second button on the Solar Plus to launch into different sports activities that you're able to track. But aside from that, I'd say the overall experience is still quite similar. The frame of the watch is still constructed out of aluminum alloy. We have those removable watch straps made out of silicone included in the box, and it also features similar heart rate monitoring as well as SpO2 blood oxygen monitoring, and still uses a magnetic system for charging, although unfortunately the charger is not compatible with the RS4, so they have slightly spaced it apart a little bit more on this one, so Haylou's chargers are not cross-compatible. On the side there is a microphone and also a speaker, so this watch is capable of answering phone calls. This one retails for around $60, but often goes on sale for around $40, maybe even less, depending on if you're shopping around. Granted, like the Mi Band and the RS4, some shortcomings include not having built-in GPS directly on the watch, although you can use connected GPS or your phone's GPS to track your route, and then the watch is just tracking your heart rate, your steps, and calories burned. We've got 105 different sports activities that it's able to monitor and label, and it's rated to be IP68 against showers and rain. However, it's not quite as water resistant as 5 ATMs seen on the Mi Band and the more expensive Amazfit wearables. So if you plan on going diving, then this is probably not going to be the best choice. The battery life is rated to last around 7 days of continuous usage if you have heart rate monitoring turned on. However, it can last up to 20 days in the extreme power saving mode. And compared to something like the Amazfit GTR series, we have the GTR2 here side by side, you can tell that they are not too far apart in terms of the overall dimensions, in terms of the build as well. Although 1.43 inches is not quite as small as on some more lightweight models out there, like the Zepp E or even the Google Pixel Watch that tend to be a little bit more compact. With that being said, I found it to be comfortable enough and light enough in my day-to-day usage without too many complaints. The UI here is still extremely simple and pretty much mirrors what we saw on the RS4, but as a reminder, we can drag down to check out some quick shortcuts, including a flashlight mode that turns the display white. So again, a pretty good quality screen that they have invested here. There's also a ultra power saving mode, there's a do not disturb mode, you can find your smartphone if it's connected via Bluetooth, gesture control for flicking your wrist to wake up the screen, as well as changing the screen brightness using this manual slider. However, unfortunately, the Solar Plus does not have an ambient light sensor, so it doesn't automatically change the brightness for you, like we saw on the Mi Band 8, for instance. Finally, you can jump into the full advanced menus to tweak tracking settings as well as the display timeout settings in more detail. Swiping left or right will take you through the carousel of widgets that will show you basic info including steps that you've taken during the past day as well as calories burned. Swipe again to access your heart rate, once more to take a look at SpO2 blood oxygen, stress level, and also hours slept will reset when you reach the PM of the day, but the information will then be visible on the app that we'll see in a moment, and then once again into your weather information before returning to the main watch face. So it's a continuous loop on either side, and then tapping again on the top key will take you into the main menu of all the applications. By default, it is using this kind of Apple Watch inspired view, which is not my favorite. It's okay in terms of responsiveness, but none of the apps are labeled. It can be a little tricky to figure out at first what they are corresponding to. However, you can also jump into settings, and in the view mode, you can instead choose a waterfall view or a list view. So waterfall is still kind of similar, to be completely honest, in terms of having icons which aren't labeled, but at least they go up and down. And then the list view is the more traditional one that I think actually makes the most sense. However, interestingly, animations on the list view mode seem to be a little choppier than on the honeycomb one from before. It's not quite as smooth as on the Mi Band 8, which one of its selling points is the 60 Hz refresh rate of all the animations in the UI. It doesn't really impede the functionality of the watch, but it's some of those fine details that maybe still require a bit more of polishing in the user experience department. Some additional apps here include the phone dialer that you can bring up a keypad for calling someone as long as you're connected by Bluetooth to your phone. Similarly, most of these apps here will show a little bit more detail when you swipe up and down as compared to the main widget view from the home screen. Sports tracking is also fairly comprehensive. You also get additional options tucked away under more sports that you can further categorize and find, and it will continuously track your heart rate and steps during those sessions. The weather screen here also shows a little bit more info, including the ultraviolet rays and the next 6 days ahead. Some final screens here include a kind of breathing or meditation app, uses haptics and this circle to expand and contract, and you breathe in and breathe out to try and become more relaxed. Like other smartwatches, you can use this as a remote for controlling music, play, pause, and there's even a emotion app, which I think is kind of repetitive, to be completely honest. It's quite similar to stress, but labeling in words instead of just a number, telling you if you're calm or feeling a little bit unhappy or stressed. You can also use a simple calculator built onto this particular watch. Simple functions like a stopwatch, as well as a countdown timer available on the watch as well. Plus, you can set alarms on here. By the way, you can also long hold for a few seconds on the watch dial to transition between those watch faces. By default, the system can only have one custom watch face installed in the memory. So right now we have Symmetry pushed over from the companion app, and then the first 4 watch faces that you see here, High-Tech Red, Haylou H, Lunar Eclipse, Colorful Blocks, they are built into the memory and cannot be overwritten, at least in the current software that we have here. Less powerful than on the Mi Band 8, which can again hold up to 19 watch faces in its memory at once, but nonetheless I think it looks quite good on this pretty vibrant and also contrast-rich screen. The companion app is called Haylou Fun, and it's very basic, but at least it's pretty quick at syncing information over as long as you have Bluetooth turned on. Usually takes just a few seconds. You're able to gauge the battery percentage remaining and also your quick metrics at a glance. It has kind of a cute digital avatar of you also displayed there on the side. Rings here correspond to if we've reached our daily goal in terms of steps, calories, exercise duration, and we can tap inside to learn a little bit more details. Some quick tips are also displayed there on the top, and then you can cycle left and right between the different days and see how your metrics there are comparing. Doesn't have quite as much granularity as something like a Garmin or a Fitbit, but again, basic steps and metrics you're able to gauge. And then under exercise records, you can take a look at your continuous heart rate during that session, your average speed and cadence, and also your heart rate zone. Further down below, we can check out our sleep data, and I will say that the algorithms on all of the Haylou watches at the moment are only going to work when you're sleeping at night. So if you're taking a nap during the afternoon, unfortunately, it's not going to track that as sleep for you automatically. That's an area in the algorithms that I would really like to see Haylou start to improve on. We gave them kind of a pass, especially when they came out with their first wearables and they were just super cost effective. But as the generations go on by, the price is starting to creep up a little bit. It is time to start adding in the continuous 24/7 sleep tracking. Regardless, for the core hours at night, if you're going to sleep and then waking up in the morning, it does do a reasonable job of giving you a good enough approximation of hours that you slept, light versus deep sleep, as well as a breakdown of your percentage. Luckily, other hardware sensors are quite accurate, including SpO2, heart rate, and even stress monitoring, as well as the pedometer. Those are all give and take about 5% off from similar smartwatches in a comparison, so it felt pretty accurate, didn't notice any significant higher or lower numbers from those. The next tab over allows you to track and begin sports activities from the phone, where you can use the connected GPS here to also trace your route. Then the final tab over allows you to change your target in terms of goals of steps and calories you want to reach. You can also tap on the watch itself to see if there's any firmware updates, setting up alarms, and turning on and off the sedentary reminder from the phone here. Perhaps more importantly, the entire gallery of customizable watch faces. It has a pretty good selection, I'd say, for a budget wearable. So we can scroll down here to take a closer peek at what are some of the options that you have. And pushing over a watch dial to the device will usually take around 15 to 20 seconds to complete. So here's one called Project Infinity that I think also looks quite good with the black contrasts in the background. Some limited watch dials are also interactive, like this one called Pixel B, although these animated dials are a bit more rare compared to static ones. Here's one more example called Skateboard Boy that has this also animation there on the front. That is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of the Haylou Solar Plus. It's yet again a fairly good showing, I would say, especially in this low price range that has a beautiful always-on display with vivid colors and excellent contrast. And basic tracking, including steps, heart rate, SpO2, are all fairly accurate. However, I will say if you don't necessarily have to have a watch-shaped design and you're okay with something like a band, the Mi Band 8 might be a slightly better value in terms of the sleep tracking part being more accurate, as well as having just smoother transitions in the UI overall, which are a little bit more abrupt on Haylou's products at the moment. But otherwise, features are similar, just a slightly different form. So still a very good value, I would say, for a budget smartwatch. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been our closer look at the Haylou Solar Plus.